Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative podcast, home to the growing community of trade finance stakeholders and institutions who are making this asset class investable. I'm Doris Konanovich. It's really lovely to have you here on episode 28. Now, our guest today is a non bank originator specializing in supply chain finance as well as structured trade and commodity finance, amongst other services. I'm here with Dylan Martin. He's the CEO of Teybridge Capital Europe. Dylan, it's really lovely to have you on here today.
Hi there, Doris. Lovely to chat to you again, and hello to all your listeners.
Amazing. And I think congratulations and a warm welcome is also in order as you, a few weeks ago, became the TFDi's 70th member. So welcome to the consortium.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think we are absolutely delighted to be a part of the community and obviously work with existing and new partners and continue the collaboration that's obviously core to our objectives.
Indeed. All right, let's jump straight in. And talk about you a little bit, about your journey leading up to Teybridge Capital. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing and what your interests were within the trade finance space?
Yeah, sure. So, as your listeners might pick up, I'm a South African. I've been living in Dublin for the last 7 years. I'm one of those very lucky people that trade finance is my absolute passion. My work is really not work at all. I really enjoy it. Some days, obviously, I would like to be doing other things, but broadly speaking, I'm very lucky in that respect. I've always been in trade finance. I've had about 12 years experience in the industry across multiple types of trade finance products, as well as with both the banking and the alternative space, as well as being involved in a number of fintech initiatives as well. So I think this day and age, trade finance and fintech go very much hand in hand. And I've been a part of a number of entities and companies that have done that very successfully. And I'm very excited to talk about Taybridge and our initiative with you today.
Let's do that. And obviously, Taybridge has like a tailored package depending on who the client is sometimes within this space. Tell us a little bit about what Taybridge does and who your target audience are.
Yeah, sure. So we generally cater to the SME market. Over here in Teybridge Europe, we obviously focus on the European market, but through our group, we are able to accommodate most industries and jurisdictions. At our core, we very much supply chain finance, so focusing on providing our clients with the working capital solution at the most optimal time in their supply chain, whether that's through a single facility or through a dual or multi-facility offering. We are able to accommodate that through our large debt funding capacity. We also able to accommodate that through our very extensive network within the industry and deliver that in the most efficient way through our platform and our technology that we've developed. And I think we'll touch on that in a bit as well. So
Absolutely.
that's where we are.
It's really interesting because when we talk to a lot of service providers such as yourselves and or non-bank originators, it's all about SME financing and really creating an opportunity for user groups to come together and create the opportunity for them to be able to have accessible financing and such. And it's SME funding is really important today. How do you differentiate yourself in the market in terms of the global trade space and how are you contributing to closing this illustrious 1 point something trillion trade finance gap?
Yeah, I think our differentiating factor is really in the actual delivery of these trade finance solutions. So being able to provide multiple solutions across the supply chain to a single client is certainly a differentiator. And then through the technology, ultimately is a huge part of our business. So being able to offer that in a simple, understandable way to our client base, but also making it highly accessible to our investors, which range between institutional funders to family offices. So it's really about the accessibility and simplicity of our offering that differentiates ourselves. In addition to that, as I said, we're part of a broader group. So having that global presence, being able to deploy experts in the various finance products across the various industries is obviously crucial to the success of deploying and managing the trade finance instruments.
And you talked about having accessible products here, and one of such is the Bridge, which is your transaction management platform. Tell us a little bit about what it is and how it works.
Yeah, sure. So Bridge is a bespoke platform. We developed it very much with collaboration in mind, being able to plug into various service providers such as credit rating agencies, insurance companies, banking providers. We have gone with a purpose-built platform that essentially simplifies the deployment of working capital, gives a high degree of visibility in the transaction lifecycle for risk mitigation, and essentially is a best-in-class platform that is getting a lot of banking attention as well. So yeah, we're very proud of what we built in Bridge, and yeah, making obviously operational efficiency across the board.
You mentioned the global presence as well with Taybridge, it's global accessibility to clients and your database. What kind of corporates are you interested in providing liquidity to, and what are the geographies that you are sort of investing in, so to say?
Yeah, sure. So it's quite a wide range of clients that we're focusing on. So it's from the SME client to the corporate client. Generally, our facilities are range between 100,000 euros to roughly 10 million euros, and that again
Mm,
could be spread across multiple facility types. We look for our client to obviously be commercially solvent, have strong trading history with strong margins, and generally our client is in a high growth phase and need the working capital support to continue that growth trajectory. So one of the examples that immediately comes to mind is an eco wine distributor that's in the UK. They landed these massive contracts with all the major retailers in the UK, and weren't able to actually deliver on those contracts without having the support on the
mm.
working capital side. So we obviously stepped in, provided them with a working capital facility focusing on the receivables element because of these large contracts they won. And that company's absolutely flying. It was one of the first to introduce these eco carbon neutral bottles. It's actually made out of cardboard, and they're
Hmm.
absolutely flying. And that kind of leads me to another point, which I'm excited to share, is that we're launching a sustainability portfolio as well this year, which will be focusing on those types of clients where they clearly demonstrate a sustainability element in their business. We'll be giving them differentiated pricing that is more competitive than others to really promote sustainability and ESG agenda across our industry. So we're not only focusing on closing that gap, but we're trying to do it in an ESG mind frame as well.
And ESG has been sort of on the front burner, I think, in the last few years, with corporates just thinking outside the box and not just providing services, but also looking at more sustainable ways to introduce what they do and actually make their jobs. A sustainable environment and create that kind of space for them. Why do you think ESG has been so important in the last few years, and especially for Taybridge?
So I think it's a global issue, obviously, and we're just trying to make our impact in the best way we know how. So, as Taybridge and as a finance company, we can obviously incorporate a lot of the ESG agendas and scoring metrics as a company, as a standalone company. But the biggest impact that we're going to make is by tapping into and driving the agenda with our clients. Finance is obviously a very big stick, and we can do that and drive and change behavior in our large client base, and we feel that that's going to be the biggest impact we can make. Really to focus the minds of the clients and to ensure that they are incorporating it into their business ethos as much as possible.
It's a really good way to go, I think, because it's more and more we're going to be a little bit more aware of the impact that our businesses are making to the environment, to, on a day to day basis for companies, and scoring in that way and kind of calculating will just become more and more important as the years go by. All right. What other kind of instruments are you offering to your clients?
So it's a broad suite of products. It's everything from stock financing all the way to receivables financing. So we're able to obviously deliver on those through the multi mandates that we currently have with our investor base and our liquidity pools. I think that really stands out in that we are not we have the expertise from the outset to deploy these facilities in the best possible way. And I think that's a massive differentiator for us is the ability for a client to come to us with a working capital problem, and for us to be able to solve that through the various products that we can support.
Amazing. Now, you're still listening to, or perhaps watching on YouTube, the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative podcast featuring the CEO of Teybridge Capital, Europe, Dylan Martin. Now, let's talk a little bit about liquidity. What types of liquidity providers are you currently working with?
So, as I mentioned, it's really the institutional investors. We do have family
Mm-hmm.
offices involved as well, and we return a very healthy risk-adjusted return to them. I think us as an industry has really been fortunate in that there is excess liquidity in the market. There is a need for diversification of portfolios, and it just happens that trade finance has become a very popular asset class. Fintechs such as ourselves and a lot of work I know with the likes of trade tech, making that an accessible instrument is obviously crucial, and I think we're making a lot of good headway in that space. Um, and yeah, I think that the ease of investment, the ease of monitoring, the visibility that and reporting that can now be provided through extremely rich granular data is putting these investors at ease and certainly making it more attractive for them as an asset class.
Indeed. And are you relying on credit insurance yourself? Like, how are you currently scoring risk transactions?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, credit insurance, we absolutely take out. It's predominantly on our receivables based products. It's a great risk mitigant for protracted default and insolvency, but it's not a relying factor for us in terms of our underwriting criteria. So, we have our own risk rating methodologies that employ both qualitative and quantitative measures. On the quantitative side, we do what a bank would do in terms of assessing the 9 critical ratios to lending, but we layer in and weight a whole bunch of qualitative factors, which you have to do in the trade finance space to produce a Teybridge score. And that score can then be pegged against a bond rating. And again, that importance of rating and getting that bond equivalent is really what it drives the interest in this asset class from an investor, institutional investor base.
It sounds to me that, obviously having your finger in a lot of pies means that you have to automate a few things. And that brings me to technology, which, every business today, you can't work without having some sort of digitalization in your workflow. How has the use of technology specifically impacted your investment activities?
Yeah, so technology is a huge part of our business. We, through Bridge, have obviously developed a platform that can provide that granular detail and obviously manage the transaction lifecycle end to end. When it comes to the digitization of tried and tested structured finance methodologies, I think we've really cracked that through the experience of our group and obviously the experience of our team in Europe in the fintech space. Um, I think the platform itself has always been developed with collaboration in mind, and with that reason, we have APIs that can plug into third-party service providers, as I mentioned, the credit rating agencies and the banks and the credit insurance providers. And what that allows us to do at the very outset is make a tech-enabled decision when onboarding a client. And then with the banking providers and the APIs, we're able to automate a lot of the transactional side. So the setup, getting the client onboarded is highly important. And then being able to actually scale this product through automation, particularly on the transactional side, where we've set up those parameters. And as long as the mandate is complied with, the eligibility is complied with, the automation and the funding can take place pretty seamlessly. So introducing the tech, working with service providers, and leveraging off the best-in-class providers is certainly part of our company and part of our tech package.
And speaking about that collaboration and working with third party suppliers or companies, you earlier mentioned trade tech. What has been Taybridge's relationship with trade tech, and how has that come to be?
So I've personally worked with the TradeTech team for a number of years across a couple of ventures, and TradeTech has always been a reliable partner. They've always been able to come to the party with institutional investors, with securitization structures, and in Taybridge we see that partnership as incredibly important to our overall offering. Um, think trade tech from a securitization as a service, but also as a tech player and getting access to those institutional, capital markets is certainly going to has benefited us, and we certainly see the relationship with trade tech continuing and scaling over the coming months, years. So we're very excited about that opportunity.
Indeed. And, obviously at TFDI, we're all about, connecting people to the right technology that does what it needs to do for them. And trade tech has been like one of the big names that we keep hearing in the industry within the private debt marketplace space, providing that ease of service to, investors and asset managers alike. Now, last year, let's take a step backwards, because I think we're now in a very interesting turn of events this year. Last year we saw a lot of volatility in the market, with thanks to COVID, inflation crisis, war crisis, and the market has had to shapeshift a little bit,
Mm.
in terms of the clients we're working with, adapting. Some businesses actually needing to use more technology, or work with the other counterparties to help them get access to clients, or work in a better and more efficient fashion. How have you seen the fund management market change or evolve since then? And has it been largely a positive or profitable venture so far for Taybridge?
Yes, it absolutely has, and it really started back in COVID. Really, is where we saw a massive boom in working capital facilities being required, specifically when the COVID relief schemes and things came to maturity. In terms of inflation, interest rate hikes, all of that has certainly created volatility in the market. But at the same time, it's created an increased demand in working capital. Supply chain costs have not come down. In actual fact, they've increased. And for us as a company to be able to support those clients, and in some cases, clients that never tapped into the alternative space before have now needed to tap into that space. To be in a position to support those companies is really where Teybridge sits. And I think that demand is going to continue over the coming years. And we're here to help those SMEs. And on the flip side, provide obviously a very healthy return to our investors. So we sit in the middle, facilitating that relationship and to support that continued increased demand in the market.
Let's look to the future, with Taybridge. What's in the works? What can we expect to see? And also tapping your brains as to what trends you think that we're going to see within this market as well in the next few months or perhaps years.
I think to continue on the theme of collaboration, I think there's going to be a lot of collaboration across fintechs and banking providers. We have seen some of that in the past already, but I think that's going to certainly increase quite aggressively in the coming years. At Teybridge, obviously, we're very excited about launching that sustainability portfolio, which will happen at the end of the year. And then it's really about evidencing how we can scale the distribution of our trade finance solutions as much as possible through our platform. And that's really going to be through integration with providers, and showing and evidencing that the efficiencies that we've created in this space. Again, not if anything, in reducing the risk and providing it as a more attractive asset class to investors beyond the institutional investors, but actually gaining larger liquidity pools and trust across larger liquidity pools to address that gap that you rightly pointed to.
Amazing. And that's basically looking at your clients and paying attention to what solutions you can provide them,
Completely.
and shape shifting and scaling to make sure that you're adjusting as a business as well.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a great plan. Well, here at the TFDI, we wish you continued success with the business. And again, a big welcome to the team. This is it for episode 28. I've had the pleasure of speaking with the CEO of Teybridge Capital Europe, Dylan Martin. Dylan, thank you so much for making the time today.
Doris, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to chat to you.
And thanks to you out there who's watching or listening. Remember, you can join the conversation on our YouTube and Spotify pages by subscribing to stay in the loop of all our podcasts, past and present. And this year, we'll be attending the TFDI's Trade Finance Investor Day on the 19th and 20th of October in the UK. So don't forget to register for our inaugural conference. I'm Doris Kononowicz. Catch you next time.